What's going on, guys? Pete Nova here with the Face Off Sports Network. I am back. Week 1 is here. It's Labor Day, Monday, the 1st of September. We have football just around the corner. The Eagles take on the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday. Then we got the Chargers and Chiefs playing in Brazil on Friday. And then we got a full slate of games on Sunday, and then to finish off the week on Monday as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Supernova38 with 2 R's. I am joined by my guy, Chev90. You've seen Chev on the channel a few times. I'm going to let Chev talk a little bit about where you can find him and what he's working on currently.
Well, appreciate you having me on. I think this is the first time I've been on this particular platform with you?
No, so we did the defense and then we did the breakouts.
That's
But we
right.
did the breakouts on First Read and then we did
Yeah.
the defense here.
See, you got a lot going on. This is one of the hardest working guys in the industry. So you got a lot going on. So I'm not sure. I wasn't sure which one. I just know that we do a lot together and it usually does well. So I'm pretty excited to be here today.
Yeah, man. And so you're obviously on Player Profiler, so we'll be doing content. I'll be doing content there. You'll be doing content there. Do you have anything specific that you plan on doing for them this season that you have in the works?
Well, I'm doing the weekly kicker streams. So that'll
Mm,
be something to keep your eyes on.
okay.
You want to know who's going to be booting it this week? Come holler at me over on Player Profiler. And then of
All right.
course, we launched the first FFD Fantasy channel. So go over there at FFD Fantasy Football, and if everything else that I'm working on, you can find on the link tree at Chev90. The quantum of Chevis is what I call it. So yeah, just go tap in.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, and I feel like we do well on these together. I think it's always good to have, there are certain people that you gel a little bit better with, and I think you're definitely one of them for myself. I just
I
realized that
agree.
my personal account I'm subscribed to on the FFD Fantasy Football channel, but the Face Off was not subscribed to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw that link in the chat. So if anybody here, Kevin, I see in the chat, what's up, man? If anybody in here wants to go give him a subscribe there, they just kicked that off pretty recently. They do a lot of stuff with the FF Dynasty, but now they're doing a FF redraft as well. So kicking off like a sister channel. So that should be something fun to keep up with. But yeah, so we got Kevin in the chat. We got Ralph in the chat. We got some stuff we want to talk about for week 1. Some recent news that came out. Ralph said he's going to go ahead and follow your channel. Appreciate that, Ralph. And
Appreciate you,
Ralph has
Ralph.
a question for us. So let's do him the courtesy to pull this up. He said, finally caught you guys live. Is Trevon Henderson a reach by any means for Wednesday's draft at the 4-2, 32nd overall? I'm seeing his upside in New England, and I saw him all out in preseason. I think context is important here, Ralph. I push up running backs really high in 14-man leagues because the fall off is very, very far. I would say with Trevon Henderson, and then Chev, I'd like to hear your thoughts here. With Henderson, I'm more comfortable having him as an RB2 if I have like an anchor, right? If I have like a really, really strong RB1, like we're talking, if I took one maybe round 1, like a Genty. How many teams, Ralph? I see your extra context. How many teams, and if are there any flex spots? But I would say, I take Trevion with confidence as my RB2 if I have like a really strong RB1. If my RB1 is like a Breece Hall or an Alvin Kamara, who I like those guys, but they have some question marks, I would be a little more concerned to have Trevion as my RB2 as opposed to maybe having a really, really strong RB1. Is that fair to say, Chev?
Yeah, I'm more on the train. I mean, Trevion's my RB20, so I'm comfortable with him in the RB2 range. Like
Yeah.
I just pulled off a draft the other day in a 12-teamer where I took him in the 4th round. So I'm really, really comfortable. Came around to the idea. I thought initially this offense would be one of the worst, but I don't feel that way anymore. I think he has the week winning upside to make your week on one play. And beyond that, he's one of the most fundamentally sound backs in the entire class. So I think he's going to get off to a fast start. I don't think he's going to be a workhorse, but I do think that he's going to pay off for fantasy like as soon as the ball gets kicked off.
Yeah, that's with Henderson, I made the claim a little while back that top 12 running back is very, very possible for him. I think
Mhm.
second half of the year is when we see a lot of these guys, but also just Josh McDaniel's system. We've seen what he likes to do with these running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think he's primed to, return on investment. It might not happen early. You do have an established guy in Ramondre Stevenson right there, who I think, look, he has fumbling concerns. They did extend him, but the God's honest truth is this is also not, I mean, Mike Vrabel was not there when they extended him. Elliott Wolf was, but Vrabel and McDaniels were not. And if Stevenson has issues with holding the football, I can see them making a switch, especially in a young offense that needs juice and upside. So I could see that. Now, 32nd overall, because this is a 10-man league for Ralph. So you're talking 32nd overall. So we have a couple of questions. Let's finish up Ralph's and then we'll get to those. But let's just take a look at the board here in terms of just flat out ADP right now. And if you take a look at 32 overall in ADP, you're looking at Joe Burrow JSN range, right? So if you're taking Henderson's 45, right? You're talking 32 overall. You're talking about taking him ahead of Brees, Kamara, Hampton. I'm fine with that if you have conviction. I don't want to be stuck here where there's been a lot of times in drafts where I look at Henderson and I'm like, fuck, man, I'm not going to get him on the way back. Like,
Right.
so you might have to reach. And if that's a spot that you're in where you say, I don't think I'm going to get him on the way back, and you really, really like him, especially over the guys that are on the board at the position, then I'm fine taking him there.
That's the tough part here is like just looking at this list of the players that you would have to take him over. Obviously, JSN, like taking him over JSN doesn't feel good.
Right.
I don't like the idea of taking him over guys that are going to have secured workloads in Alvin Kamara and whatever you think about Brees Hall's going to be on the field, and we know that he's going to catch passes. And then Kenneth Walker as well. Those are all guys that I look at and I'm like, if those guys are on the board, I don't feel like I need to reach for Trevon there. Even though I do believe in the talent, it's just that, playing this ADP game of trying to get up to 4-2 in a 10-team league is to get. I don't think you have to do that. I think you could get one of those guys, like one of the guys that we just mentioned, and Trevon as well. So I don't. Just because you have conviction doesn't mean that you need to plant your flag at that point in the particular draft. Like let it fall, like let it play out the way that it will, and then we can figure out where we want to go as far as like if I need to reach a few picks as opposed to reaching like 15 or 16 picks.
Yeah, and in a 10-man team, I would say this. I prefer I don't generally reach on elite tight end or elite quarterbacks because I play mostly in 12. But if I am in a 10-man league, that's where I don't mind taking an elite quarterback or an elite tight end because you need edges at those positions because a lot of teams are going to have really, really good rosters. And so in a 10-man league, that's where I am totally comfortable even taking, a Jaden Daniels, a Josh Allen if he falls, a Lamar if he falls. Like those guys, that's where I'm okay with. Now, it is interesting because he did say it's a 2 quarterback, 2 wide receiver. So if you're starting 2 quarterbacks, and that's also different. So throw what I said out the window because the truth is like that's if it's a super flex where you have to start 2, then it's completely different conversation here. And at that point, I don't know if I feel really great taking Henderson at the 32nd overall pick. But round 3 is just really weird in general. It's a really weird area. Now I say round 3, but you're saying 4.2 overall, which is 32nd, which is like the middle of round 3. A lot of the guys there, I'm not super in love with. I think a lot of guys in round 4, I like just as much as I like guys in round 3. So I think the truth is I would say you don't want to be sitting here on Sundays watching Henderson go ballistic. I think there's a world and a path for him to finish out better than some of those guys. So I'm a little bit in a different camp. I think I have him ahead of Kenneth Walker. I have him behind Brees Hall and Kamara, but I could totally be swayed on saying, hey, like he can finish higher than those guys. So I say that usually in the early parts of drafts, like the first few rounds, I don't like taking rookies, but once you get to round like 4, 5, 6, 7, like that's where I'm okay taking those chances because the veterans that are there, they might feel safer, but we also know that they're there for a reason. they would be
Right.
higher. They've shown us already a couple of seasons, maybe sophomore years. So we've seen production, but we've also seen their faults too. And that's why they're not higher in drafts. So I don't mind taking chance on uncertainty and leaning into that with rookies later on in drafts, like in the middle types of rounds. But I hope that answers your question. Did you want to add anything else before we get to the next one?
No, I mean, Superflex kind of changes the math. Like none of those quarterbacks would be available if we're
Yeah.
talking, 2 QB Superflex. That changes the math a bit. So maybe the pickings are a little bit more slim in terms of quarterbacks. So you have the clarity to know I can go get an anchor running back or I can go get a running back that I'll be able to count on with high upside, if I go 2 quarterbacks and then like just that's just a weird range, like you said.
Yeah.
So
If it's
I'd
a
be
two
interested to see
quarterback
how that.
though, there's a good chance that Henderson gets pushed down even farther though, because
Right.
more
And
quarterbacks are going to get taken.
that was the original point that I made
Yep.
at first was like, hey, you don't have to take him in that range. There's going to be so much value on the board, especially in the 10 team, that you can wait a couple rounds and get away from that 4-2, get away from that 4-2 range and get a solid player that has what we know is a really decent floor, and then take an upside swing with Trevon, which could be all ceiling and also an awesome floor.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We got 26 people here live on YouTube. If you guys are here, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already. Throw any questions that you have in here. We'll be happy to answer them. We have some things prepped for the show. We're probably going to go another 30 minutes, but if it's answering a bunch of your questions, we don't mind doing that as well. We'll go to Scott here, who said, guys, I picked from the one spot and took Chase, Kyron, Trevion, Devontae Adams. Is that the type of start you guys like? In that case, I'm okay with it. I mean, I Kyron is kind of teetering on, like, to me, depends who you talk to, but like I'm okay with Kyron. I think he's the kind of guy that he's got a stable, strong workload where I'm okay pairing him up with a guy like Henderson for the upside. I don't love pairing him with Adams, just because I think Adams could vulture some of those touchdowns that we've seen from Kyron over the last few years. Because they haven't had that kind of red zone threat like Adams is going to be. So I do worry about the pairing there a little bit. But I love Devontae Adams, so I'm not going to sit here and say I don't. That would just be a little bit concerning for me. I just don't love the pairing of those two guys specifically on the same team.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm obviously pretty bullish. I think Devontae is like my wide receiver 12 for redraft. So I don't mind. I think they're both really safe, especially as long as Stafford's back holds up and he's not getting epidurals between every game. I'm okay. I think the Rams are one of the most undervalued like super stacks you could build in terms of lineup construction for best ball, just because Kyron's locked in for volume, and beyond that, Devon, they're Matthew Stafford's a quarterback kingmaker. So you've got a guy who's a Hall of Fame talent. You've got a guy who's been on a record-breaking pace. Puka played in 30% of the snaps in more than 30% of snaps in 9 games. And in those 9 games, he was basically like 11 targets a game and 18 points a game, even with those 2 games where he still played, but only played 30% of the snaps. So Puka's incredible. Devontae's incredible. That's an offense that I want as many pieces of. And if you swing and a miss, like if you're, I've got Kyron as my RB11. So if you swing and miss on, some of the guy, like if you miss out on Josh Jacobs and Chase Brown, like Kyron's right there. He doesn't have the pass catching upside that either one of those guys has, but he's going, I mean, he's a workhorse in an offensive environment that we absolutely love.
Yeah, and I think there are very few offenses I'm like okay with pairing like wide receiver running back in. This is one of them. I also prefer Adams at his cost much more than I prefer Puka.
Mhm.
So if you were gonna do it, this is one of the offenses I would do it. I think Adams is gonna get a ton of volume and be safe. I worry about regression at touchdowns for Kyron more than anything, but the volume will be there. And so I'm okay with the pairing. I that was just something that stuck out to me, so I keyed on it a little bit. But
Well,
go ahead.
that's a tough one. So the truth's got to be somewhere between the 2023 and 2024 seasons. Like Kyron was extremely efficient in 2023. Then the offensive line falls off a cliff in 2024, and he's just an absolute. I mean, he's just a volume merchant. Basically like rich man's Rashad White. But so I think the truth is somewhere between those two. Like, is he 4 yards a carry or is he 5.2 yards a carry? I mean,
Yeah.
he's somewhere probably around like 4.4. And then he had a bunch of explosive plays in 2023. He didn't have a bunch of explosive plays in 2024. I think the truth is somewhere between the two. Do I think he's some world beater, some otherworldly talent like a Saquon Barkley or a Jahmyr Gibbs? No, but he's a good NFL player that just got paid, and Sean McVay trusts him to operate this offense on the ground.
Yeah, I think sometimes we big brain things a little too much, and I think we try to poke holes in things, and it's good to play devil's advocate sometimes, and also just try to find like how would this guy fail, and I think that's really the only thing for me is just touchdown regression for
Yeah.
Kyron, but outside of that, the volume should be there. He's at the cheapest cost you've got. I think he's cheaper now than he was last year, so
Yes.
I like it. We got a ton more questions to get to, so we'll try to hit some of these a little quicker here. Z Smitty said, drafted last night. I'm feeling terrible about my team. That's not a
It's
good
not great.
start.
We're off to a
Uh,
bad start.
he said, I had the number 3 pick and I'm back-to-back champ. So you got a little good juju there. 10-man standard PPR. He said, my philosophy tends to be load up on the amazing wide receivers. And this year, the way the draft fell, I wasn't able to do that. I said, I took Bijan at 3. Which I was excited about. Took Jacobs in the second, who I'm incredibly high on. And at that point, I would normally go wide receiver, but Bowers was still there. I actually happen to like that. In a 10-man PPR, I talked about it before. In a 10-man, especially 10-man PPR, I like taking an elite tight end or quarterback because you need those edges at those positions. He said, I'll drop my team below so you guys can take a look. So it's Love, Bijan, Jacobs. He's got Garrett Wilson, DK, Bowers, Ridley, Judy, Harvey, Addison, Krosky, Merritt, Loveland, Mixon on the IR. Going to pick up Chubb, Jaden Higgins, or Trey Benson. Out of those 3, I would pick up Trey Benson. I think the upside's higher. I like Jaden Higgins, but I think the upside's higher for Benson just because he's behind a little bit of an older James Conner, and I think he's going to get worked in a little bit more. Overall, I think this team's good though. I mean, you have an elite quarterback. You have arguably the RB1 and tight end 1. And those are edges that are going to help lift up maybe some of the other positions or some of the other roster spots that maybe are not scoring as high. It can kind of bring up those points per game where because you're getting that much more with Bijan and Bowers on a points per game basis. So I think this is a fine team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be super upset about this.
Yeah, there's nothing to be upset about going into week 1. I mean, sure, maybe you could have some more high upside swings at wide receiver, but I mean, if we're talking Jerry Jeudy and Calvin Ridley and Garrett Wilson having stable pieces at the quarterback position to throw them passes, then this team has a really, really safe floor with immense upside because Josh Jacobs is a threat to finish as the RB1 on any given week. Excuse me. Bijan is a threat. I mean, he's the RB1 for me in all formats, regardless of, dynasty, redraft, whatever, best ball. Like, he's the RB1 for me. So this is safe enough to where your spike weeks are going to put you, maybe being one of the highest scoring teams in the league. And then your floor, when you don't, like, it's still safe enough to where you should be able to win if not everybody swings and hits a home run that week.
Yeah, and I think overall your running backs are great. You got Bowers, Jordan Love. I would have preferred maybe a better quarterback one in a 10 man, but at the same time, some people have Love higher than I do. I'm not as high on Love this year as other people are. And I would also say you're really looking at between Wilson, DK, Ridley, and Judy, you're looking at those guys, one of them in hopes to finish inside the top 15. If Bijan and Bowers do what they're supposed to do, and you can get one of those receivers to be a top 15 guy, which is very possible, especially with Garrett and DK, who are kind of interesting. DK, a lot of target consolidation with, really being the main and almost the only target there. And you could say the same for Garrett Wilson, except, DK has the better quarterback, in my opinion, but we won't have to go down that rabbit hole. Bruce said, good morning. Albert said, what's up? Greg is in the house. Engineer said, took Quinshon Judkins in the 10th and got flamed for it. Need some good news. Well, The good news is that there were reports today out of Cleveland that Quinshon Judkins could report to camp as early as this week. This is a guy, Chev, that has a wide variance of outcomes. ADP has kind of fluctuated up and down, wide variations. Right now, he's RB40, pick 116. If he misses maybe a game or two because maybe he doesn't return this week to practice, maybe it's next week. I still like the cost at where you're getting him. Outside of that top 100, he's pick 116. I honestly, I'm not super high on Caleb Johnson this year, and Jalen Warren just got that 2-year extension, but I still felt that way about it even before. But I would be more comfortable with Judkins over Caleb, especially at their costs. And Caleb Johnson may not be like an impact player for the first few weeks anyway, which could be if you look at Judkins, he might not be an impact player either. But I like Judkins for the rest of the season, even if both these guys start off slow. So I think it's good news for Judkins. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass if he doesn't play week 1 or week 2, because I don't really know how it works. Like, he's not signed. And so because he's not signed, I don't know if Sleeper or formats are going to let you put him on the IR, because he's technically like a free agent, right? So I don't know if Sleeper's going to give us the ability to throw him on the IR, which could be a little bit of a roster clog.
This is a really interesting thing, because it just really kind of comes back to what you believe about the offensive environment in Cleveland. Like, if you think that they're going to not be a bottom dweller or be whatever they were with Deshaun Watson and be more close to what they were with Jameis Winston, at the helm, like, then they're one of the most pass heavy teams in the league, and they were one of the worst rushing teams in the league. Yeah. So RB40 is about where I would be comfortable taking him. If we were getting off the ground, in an ideal world, I had him at the end of the 6th round before all of this, before all the hubbub happened and he wasn't in camp, he wasn't in training camp at all and all this stuff. So I'm extremely bullish on the talent of Quinshon Judkins. I think that he's a guy that can change the math for a running game. But I just also don't, at this point, I haven't seen him play at all. I don't know there's no reports about what he's been doing. RB40 would be okay, because there's a great chance that he vastly outperforms his ADP. Me having him at RB27 before all this, like, there's zero chance I could do that right now. But RB40 is fine, because it's like, all right, cool. He's probably my 4th or 5th running back at that point, and I can just let him sit. And if he pops off in the first couple of weeks, great. If he doesn't, I can drop him. I mean, if we're talking redraft, that's exactly where we want to be. If we're talking dynasty, you're just in a holding pattern, because you're not going to get anywhere near what you spent on him, when you did your rookie draft.
Yeah, I mean, he's going around Ramondre Stevenson, who goes pick 112. He goes behind him right now at pick 116. Now, Sleeper, that's all consensus together. Sleeper has Judkins pushed up much higher than every other app, though. So when I used Judkins, it was a consensus of ESPN, which has him at 149. 149.
Yeah.
ESPN's ADPs are very, very exploitable. They have Sleeper has them at 79, CBS 110, NFL 99, RT Sports 124, and Fantrax at 152. So obviously that skews a lot of things here. If you're telling me that you're taking Judkins at pick like 74, that becomes a little rich for me, but it depends on your situation. If you have 2 strong running backs, really, really good running backs, maybe you took RB in the first 2 rounds, and then you're hitting on a lot of the receivers after that, and you told me that he was your RB3, but you have 2 stud running backs, I would be okay taking him there. But if you're telling me that, maybe you didn't take running back super high, and you're running, your RB2 is like a DeAndre Swift maybe, or a Caleb Johnson, like, I wouldn't love taking Judkins there. But Judkins actually on Sleeper right now goes the next running back behind Johnson. Joe Mixon is actually still going higher, which I think is ridiculous, on Sleeper. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Judkins, but I'm holding him. I think Dylan Sampson is probably the guy that you want to own, but at the same time, they also have a very capable back there in Jerome Ford, who, while he's not sexy, he's still there, and he's shown us that he can play in this offense.
I mean, he's recorded a 60 or a 70-yard touchdown in back-to-back seasons. So he can
Yeah, well,
definitely play.
yeah.
There's no question about. I mean, he's just in a putrid environment. If, like I said, he's going to get the ball first, and I don't necessarily know if he's going to give it back. Like before, I was convinced that you put him and Quinshon Judkins into the backfield and make it a competition. Quinshon Judkins wins, but if he gets the ball first, he scores a 70-yard touchdown week one. I guarantee you, week two, they're not just going to start feeding Quinshon Judkins touches if he's active. So, yeah,
Well, if there
that's
was a defense to do it against, the Bengals might be that defense.
exactly. So we've got a perfect, we've got a perfect. Like we're going runner, perfect for Jerome Ford week one RB, our top 10 RB performance because he gets the Bengals.
Yeah. Fud Gums Lover, Fudge Gum, I don't even know. Said Quinshon got dropped and is available on my waiver wire right now in a 12-man. I think till he becomes IR eligible, or someone really concrete moves down, he will stay sitting there. Would you guys rather have Judkins or Jaden Blue in a half PPR 12-man? If it's half PPR, I'd rather take the chance on Judkins over Blue because I think Blue is going to Javante's going to catch a lot of passes there, but ultimately, I think long term for the entire season, I'd rather have Judkins over Blue. I know people are high on Judkins. I mean, on Blue, and I don't know where you stand, Chev, but I think I'd still rather take the chance because odds are Blue. If you're talking about dropping Blue for Judkins probably ends up being your RB4 or 5. And at that point, the upside is just massive for him. And the talent is just so good that I'm willing to be burned, if for whatever reason this doesn't get done soon.
I listen, I love Quinshon Judkins. He was my RB3 in the whole process. There's zero chance that I'm not going to take Jaden Blue here. I have to we know listen, the
Okay.
Cowboys offense is going to be one of the best offenses in football.
Yeah.
And Jaden Blue, all he has to do is beat out Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. I thought Miles Sanders would win the job. He got hurt. So now Javonte Williams still the lead dog. I think that's going to be Jaden Blue the minute that the games start and they realize that Javonte can't make people miss tackles. So I think Jaden Blue has sneaky upside.
Yeah, I think so as well. I honestly, the closer we get, I do worry about Javonte and how I've been off of completely. But
I mean, you're a Broncos fan. You watch that shit.
I know, but I just don't. He's going to be hard to get off the field on passing downs, and if they can't run the football and they wind up in long down and distances there, I worry about because Javante's so good at pass pro, and he might have a ton of juice, but he's going to get a lot of receptions there. And if you're talking to half PPR in this situation where receptions aren't as important, maybe that makes you say I'd rather than just take Jaden Blue but Judkins isn't going to be a guy that's going to catch a ton of passes either in that offense. So
right. That's what I'm saying. Like there's a very the way I look at it is there's a very capped ceiling at about 20 points a game for Cleveland right now. Whereas I think Dallas could get to 28 to 30. And
Dallas' defense is going to be bad.
And Dallas's defense is going to be piss poor.
Yeah.
So they might just treat Blue a little bit like Achane and just, hey, you're going to be out here. We're just going to throw you the ball. Like you're one-on-one with a linebacker. We're just going to throw you the ball. I mean, we saw, we've seen him matched up against linebackers at the collegiate level, and it doesn't go well for the linebacker. He's a 4-3 guy. I don't think it's going to go well for the linebackers at the next level either. I think, once we've gotten to see him in camp, be able to kind of take it between the tackles and also be that guy that's hitting those explosive plays in the pass game via, like getting targets in the passing game rather. I think that this is a wheels up for Blue. Like especially if he only has to just supplant Javonte Williams. That's the caveat. He's just got to beat Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. Jaden Blue is going to be one of the biggest steals in fantasy this year.
That's fair. You heard it here first from Chev. I think no matter what happens, Javante's going to have a lot of that passing game just because the pass protection is just too hard to get off the field. But we'll see how it goes. We're gonna get some. I have about 10 minutes left, so we're gonna try to rapid fire through some of these questions. Maybe not give you as much analysis, but we're gonna be here all week. You can follow Chev at his channel, follow him on Twitter as well. You can follow us here. We're gonna be going live this week, especially on Thursday too, to give you all those start sits heading up to the game and get you guys ready to go. Nick R said $14 on $100 cap in my auction. Is that too much for Achane? I would say no. I mean, you're talking about 14% of your cap on a player that's like arguably could go first round if he didn't have these issues with the quote unquote calf injury. Reports came out today. He is practicing. I think 14% of your salary cap on Achane is more than fine.
Yeah, that's a steal. I
Yeah.
mean, you're looking at 22.7 points per game with two in the lineup. Like that's what you're getting with Achane. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I'd be comfortable going up to, 20 to 23% of my, my, if I've got $100 budget. Yeah. Like
I was going to say
like
the
a
same.
fifth of the budget.
I'd be willing to spend more. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen guys say, 40% of your budget for a top guy like a
Yeah.
Bijan and those kinds of guys. So if you're talking about, under 20% of your budget on Achane, like I'm okay with that because I'm high on Achane this year. Let's move to some of these other questions here. Fudge Gums Lover also said, I'm in a 12-man PPR and currently have Purdy as my quarterback for the Pure Soul stack, but somehow Dak is available in free agency and I'm holding Dak too. Should I grab him instead? So I guess I'm a little confused because you have Dak or you don't have Dak. You sounds like you have Purdy. I prefer Dak over Purdy.
Mhm.
But he also said I could also drop either Thielen, Blue, Rashad White as the Bucky handcuff to put Dak on the bench and see how things play out. I'd be fine dropping Thielen,
Yes.
but
That's where I was going to.
yeah, I'd be fine to drop Thielen. He's going to pop maybe for a few weeks because that's what he just does, but you don't know which weeks that's going to be. And he's next to Jefferson and Hawkinson. There's really strong target competition, which wasn't there in Carolina when he had some of those pop weeks. 8 straight nights said start Flacco or start Stafford. Dude, call me crazy. I'm starting Flacco over Stafford this week, man. In
Oh
that game
wow.
against the Bengals, high scoring, bad defense against with that Bengals, I'm starting Flacco. Stafford going up against the Texans. It's a good defense with the Texans and Stafford. We haven't seen it yet, but I don't know. Call me crazy, but I think I might roll with Flacco there. That might change, and we're gonna get close, and you might come back in here and ask the same question later on in the week, and things start as we get more information. The start sit questions become easier, but I think right now my early lean is Flacco over Stafford.
I don't mind that at all. It's just, I mean, the Texans defense is really good. That's not a big deal, but I I believe in that offense. I think that yeah, let's just go with the easier offensive environment. Like there's the Bengals hadn't figured anything out defensively that's gonna make them be able to do anything. Like people are saying play the Bengals defense week one, and I'm like, you are that's a bold strategy, Cotton. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you here. Flacco week one. I'm good with it.
Okay. Now I do got to get to super chat because it's our first super chat of the week, which is a nice one. $20 from Low Kane. Appreciate you so much for the support. I said, rate my team 12-man PPR, one flex. Bo Nix at quarterback, Bucky, Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, Benson, Hunt. Wide receivers are Puka, Evans, Ridley, DeMario Douglas, Thornton Jr. My tight ends are Njoku, Tyler Warren, had the Rams D, and my kicker is Brandon Aubrey. First glimpse here, I would say that the receiver depth is a little I mean, I love
Draft
Puka.
class,
I like
yeah.
Puka and Evans, and you have Ridley, and I'm a fan of Pop Douglas. But Thornton Jr., I guess you could do worse at your wide receiver 5. That's okay. You could probably drop Kareem Hunt, maybe. He's going to be involved, but there might be a higher upside player on waivers than Kareem Hunt, in my opinion, right? Like maybe a
I
Woody
would much
Marks.
rather Damian Pierce or Woody Marks than
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt at this point.
Yeah. So that would be my thoughts. But overall, I would say I think it's a good team. Kenneth Walker and Sharbs. The only thing I did advocate for this. I said if you're going to draft Kenneth Walker, I rarely draft my own handcuff. Sharps will be that handcuff. It does limit your upside a little bit, which is why I would try to go for a more upside player over Hunt. I'm fine with Thornton because of, we've seen him look pretty good. I'm assuming that's Dante Thornton for the Raiders. So the
Yeah.
volume is going to be there possibly, and he's got high upside. Hunt is an easy cut for me because you're handcuffing yourself on upside because you already have Sharps backing up Walker. So I think that would be kind of my thing there. I think you think you'd shop Hunt and you see if there's a higher upside player. If there's anybody out there, let us know in the comments that you're thinking of that you might be okay with chopping Hunt and going to pick up.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I said, either Pierce or Woody Marks. You could take a shot. You take a shot on. I mean, hell, if you're gonna go handcuff, go Rico Dowdle. Go somebody that like maybe if something happens to Chuba Hubbard, you've got immense upside with an elite offensive line. So yeah, just a couple things to think about. And then Rams D, I would be, if it's possible, look to see if the Commanders are available.
Yeah.
That's that's pretty much my only that's my only feedback. There's just a drastic drop off in your receiver depth after Ridley, but those, the swing on Thornton is the type of swing that I want to take. Yes. I would do that same thing with Hunt in the running back room.
Yep, I would agree there. I'm good with the Rams defense. They're one of my streamers this week. I think the upside's there, but the risk is there because it's a good offense. But you're talking about an offensive line with a lot of new faces, and it's a lot of shuffling of the deck, and a defense that gets a lot of pressure. An offensive line that allowed a ton last year. Now I have about 3 to 5 minutes left. I want to rapid fire through some of these. Locane, if you do follow us, I'm going to go ahead and drop our Discord in the chat here, but because of the super chat, I'm going to give you a month free of our premium Discord. So if you join the Discord, I'm going to go ahead and send that in the chat. If anybody else wants to join our Discord, we do a ton of, just a lot of in-depth analysis for people. We answer people's questions. It's an easier way to get to us. Locane, if you see that and you want to join our Discord, I just dropped the link. Once you join, just let me know that you're Locane from YouTube, and I'll make sure to get you premium access to our Discord. We do have it for free, though. So if anybody wants to join, you can also join for free, but I'll give you premium access to give you all those nice perks that come with it. Chev, let's answer these quickly and let's get out of here. Because I gotta get somewhere for the holiday here. Jason said, one quarterback. Is there a big difference between Nick's and Goff? I would say Goff is safer. Nick's upside's higher.
Yeah, the rushing floor. No, I'd be on the Nick side, but I'm not mad. I'm not mad at you if you have Goff.
Yeah, I have Nick's. I have Goff in a few leagues, and I have Nick's as well. Fudge Master said, sorry, I meant I'm holding CD2 regarding the Purdy Dak question. Y'all going to be confused when you get to my question. Sorry. Yeah, I think we answered that, though. I'm okay with picking up Dak in that situation. I actually like him over Purdy, so I'm good with it. Engineer said, doubling up on wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, a bad idea. I took Nico and BTJ back to back and went Bucky and Hampton 3 and 4. I think you made out really, really well getting Bucky and Hampton. It sounds like you got Hampton in the 4th. So I think for going 2 wide receivers to start, you actually ended up doing pretty well here.
Outstanding. Yeah.
A Crazy Knight said, which side are you taking, Genti and Laporta or Brian Thomas and Bucky? It's a 1-point tight end premium and a 12-man PPR. So Genti and Laporta in a tight end premium or Brian Thomas and Bucky. I think I don't know. You're saying Laporta, Genti. I think it's close, man. I honestly think I might prefer the Bucky.
I'm going Brian Thomas. That's what I was saying. I'm putting that side.
All right, yeah. So that side for me is Laporta side. I was going to say because my thing with Laporta is I don't know how. I think there's more pieces in this offense now. I don't know how high from a PPR standpoint the premium is going to push him up for me. I think I'd rather get BTJ and Bucky there. But that's just me. CC said, would you guys trade Marvin Harrison Jr. for RJ Harvey? We need a little more context there, straight up in a vacuum. I prefer Harvey over Marvin Harrison Jr. this year, but I would just need more context in your roster build and who you have and so on and so forth. Ty said 10-man PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex, pick 7 Allen. We'll get to that. If this is more of a start sit question, we'll get to that more later into the week. Piff said, I'm watching on X about to stream live a draft. Appreciate you, man. Good luck today. Judkins news is just that he might come back to practice today or this week. Sorry. Let's try to hit the last few here. Cody said redraft stacks aren't as valuable as best ball. I would agree. Pate said pick one to start for week one. Tank Bigsby, Stevenson, and Cooper, Matthew Golden. I'm my head's not there just yet. I know we're talking week one, but we're trying to get out of here quickly. I would say off rip, Matthew Golden probably would be my pick for upside. If you need upside, if you need safe, Ramondre Stevenson maybe against the Raiders might be like a safe floor because he's still going to be involved. But I think Golden, right, Chev?
Yeah, Golden's the upside play. I'd go Tank Bigsby over Ramondre Stevenson though.
Yeah. Kevin said JMC going to get a touchdown week one. Shell Doe said, rate my team if possible. Drake May, Derrick Henry, Bucky, George Pickens, DK Metcalf, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Worthy, Tucker Kraft, Pat's defense, and no kicker. Would like to know what kind of format that is before I can give a guess. I'd say I'm higher on Drake May than consensus. I know Chev is higher on Pickens than consensus. We're both higher on Pearsall than consensus. I mean, we both have Pearsall in our top 25s. Worthy, I think overall in a vacuum, it's a good team. We don't have time to get more context, but I like it. And J Net for Life said Dak or Fields week one. I'm going to take Dak. I think the Eagles have some secondary things they got to work out just a little bit. I'm not really in love with that Fields matchup against the Steelers this week.
Yeah, not at all. Dak for me. Dak all day long.
Yeah. Whistle Dick, what's up, man? Good to see you. He said, go Birds. I am not a Birds fan, but I am a Phillies fan, but I am outside of the PA area, but I do get it a lot. But that's going to do it for us, guys. If you haven't followed Chev already, make sure you follow him, Chev90 on Twitter. I'm going to throw our Discord link in here one more time. You can join for free, and then there's premium paid services as well if you want to get more access to us, but we're chopping it up on Sundays and on game days all week long. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Enjoy your holiday. Make sure you like the show on the way out. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.